Imagine standing in the middle of a vast, sun-scorched desert. The air shimmers with heat, and the land seems empty, silent, endless, almost forgotten. But hidden beneath this barren landscape lies something so valuable that it could change the future of America. These aren't gold nuggets or silver veins like the old Western tales. No, this is the new treasure, the rare earth minerals that power the technology in your pocket, the batteries in electric cars, the magnets in wind turbines, and even the guidance systems in fighter jets. And right now, deep in the deserts of the American West, a modern-day gold rush is quietly unfolding. The world depends on these rare earths, but here's the catch. For decades, America has relied heavily on China to supply them. That dependence has sparked fears, tensions, and even political battles, because whoever controls these elements holds the keys to the future of energy, defense, and technology. Now, driven by both urgency and opportunity, prospectors, engineers, and investors are racing into the desert, searching for ways to dig America's independence out of the ground. This is not the gold rush of the 1800s with pickaxes and wagons. It's a clash of science, industry, and geopolitics. It's about who will control the rare earth supply chain in the 21st century. And the stakes are enormous: jobs, national security, and the ability to lead in the global technological race. But behind the glossy headlines, there are untold stories of communities, risks, and the raw human drive to strike it rich in a new kind of frontier. What would you risk for a chance to uncover something that could power the future? Would you see the desert as an unforgiving wasteland, or the birthplace of a new American dream? That question lingers as we step into the heart of this story, the new American gold rush, where fortunes may rise and history might just repeat itself in unexpected ways. To truly understand why this modern rush has begun, we need to step back and see how America reached this point. Rare earth minerals' 17 elements tucked away in the periodic table are not as rare as their name suggests, but they are extremely difficult to mine and refine. They don't come out of the ground in shiny chunks of metal. Instead, they're bound up in stubborn rock, often scattered in low concentrations that make extraction both costly and complex. For years, it simply wasn't worth the effort in the US, especially when foreign suppliers could provide them cheaper and faster. Back in the 1960s and 70s, America actually dominated the rare earth industry. One mine, Mountain Pass in California, became a global powerhouse, producing most of the world's supply. But as environmental regulations grew stricter and cheaper labor abroad undercut costs, the mine struggled to compete. By the early 2000s, America had largely abandoned the field. While China seized the opportunity, investing heavily in mining, refining, and research, soon they controlled over 80% of the world's rare earth production. That dominance gave them leverage, not just economically, but politically. Fast forward to today, and the consequences of that dependence are impossible to ignore. Trade disputes, rising tensions, and the race for clean energy have turned rare earths into a strategic priority. Suddenly, what was once overlooked has become essential, and the deserts of Nevada, California, and Texas are drawing attention again. Companies, some backed by billions in government support, are staking claims and reviving old mines, hoping to pull America back into the game. But here's where the story gets complicated. Mining rare earths isn't just about digging holes and hauling rocks. It involves dangerous chemicals, radioactive and enormous environmental challenges. Communities near proposed sites are torn between the promise of jobs and the fear of pollution. Politicians are caught balancing energy independence with environmental responsibility. And in the middle of it all are everyday Americans, watching as the fate of their towns and livelihoods may hinge on whether these minerals can truly deliver a new golden age or just another boom and bust cycle. Drive through the Mojave Desert in California, and you'll find the most famous battleground of this modern Rush Mountain Pass. From a distance, it doesn't look like much, just a series of open pits and industrial buildings surrounded by miles of dust and rock. But to those who understand its significance, Mountain Pass is like a vault filled with the keys to America's future. This mine was once the pride of American industry, producing the majority of the world's rare earths during the Cold War. It supplied materials for everything from color, televisions, to precision-guided missiles. But after years of decline, bankruptcy, and abandonment, it became a symbol of how America had lost ground. Today, Mountain Pass is alive again. Reopened by a company called MP Materials, it's working to restore the U.S. supply chain. Trucks roar through the site, hauling ore out of the earth. Engineers test new refining processes to reduce toxic waste. Billions of dollars are being invested in scaling up production. On paper, it feels like a comeback story, a chance for America to reclaim its role in one of the most critical industries of the century. But this revival comes with shadows. Critics argue that even with modern technology, rare earth mining remains messy and hazardous. Toxic tailings, radioactive residue, and water contamination are constant risks. The desert ecosystem, fragile and already under pressure, faces new threats. Environmentalists ask, is the cost of independence worth the scars left on the land? Local residents, too, are divided. Some welcome the jobs, the influx of workers, and the promise of prosperity. Others worry about long-term damage that can't be undone. And yet, Mountain Pass represents more than just a mine. It has become a symbol in the larger struggle between America and China. Every truckload of ore, every new refining facility is framed as a step toward freedom from foreign reliance. Politicians praise it, investors bet on it, and defense contractors watch closely. Because if Mountain Pass succeeds, it could mark the start of a broader renaissance, proof that the U.S. can dig its way out of dependence and stand on its own in the global tech race. The question remains, is Mountain Pass truly a rebirth of American strength, or just the first chapter in another cycle of ambition, profit, and inevitable collapse? That uncertainty is part of what makes this modern gold rush so gripping. It's not just about minerals, but about whether history will repeat itself or take a new turn. As Mountain Pass grabs the headlines, other deserts across America are beginning to stir with activity. Nevada, for instance, is quickly becoming another hotspot in this modern gold rush. Beneath its dry basins and rocky hills lie significant deposits of lithium and rare earth elements, resources now considered as valuable as oil once was. In places like Thacker Pass, massive projects are being planned to dig deep into the earth and pull out the minerals that could power the next generation of electric cars and renewable energy storage. The excitement fuels electric companies racing to secure permits, investors pouring in billions, and politicians framing these projects as patriotic endeavors. They speak of energy independence, of breaking free from China's grip, of creating thousands of jobs in struggling rural communities. To some, it sounds like a new frontier of opportunity, echoing the optimism of the old westward expansion. But just as in the 1800s, every rush has its conflicts. Native American tribes living near proposed mine sites argue that these lands are more than barren deserts. They are sacred grounds, tied to centuries of history, tradition, and cultural memory. Protests and lawsuits have erupted, with activists warning that rushing into mining risks repeating the mistakes of the past, sacrificing heritage, community, and environment for the sake of profit. At the same time, environmental groups point out that while rare earths and lithium are critical for building a green future, mining them often leaves behind a very ungreen footprint. Open pits, water use in drought-stricken regions, and toxic waste disposal all raise serious questions. Is America trading one dependency for another, moving from foreign reliance to domestic destruction? The tension is palpable. On one side, there's the promise of progress, jobs, and global leadership. On the other, the risk of broken landscapes and communities torn apart. For the people living in these desert towns, the choice is personal and immediate. For the rest of the nation, it's a debate about what kind of future America truly wants to build and at what cost. Beyond the deserts of California and Nevada, another frontier is opening up in Texas, in the rolling hills of the state's west. Prospectors and engineers are eyeing rich deposits of rare earths buried beneath the limestone. Unlike the Mojave or Nevada's dry basins, this land is ranch country where families have lived for generations, raising cattle and working the soil. Now, drill rigs and survey teams are showing up, bringing with them promises of high-paying jobs and the possibility that Texas could become a powerhouse in the rare earth industry. For many Texans, the idea strikes a chord. Independence runs deep in the state's identity, and the thought of contributing to America's freedom from foreign reliance has patriotic appeal. Some landowners are willing to lease their property to mining companies, hoping for financial windfalls that could secure their family's future. Others are skeptical, wary of outsiders who arrive with big promises, but might leave scars on the land long after the money is gone. What makes Texas especially important is its potential role in refining the steppe that has long been America's Achilles heel. It's one thing to dig rare earths out of the ground, but turning raw or into usable materials requires complex chemical processing. For decades, the U.S. shipped most of its mined material overseas for refining, usually to China. Now, projects in Texas aim to change that, building state-of-the-art facilities that could keep the entire supply chain within America's borders. This is where the stakes grow even higher. Defense contractors are watching closely, since advanced weaponry depends on rare earths for precision magnets and guidance systems. Automakers, too, are lining up, desperate to secure supplies for the booming electric vehicle market. If Texas can succeed, it won't just be another mining state, could become the backbone of America's new industrial revolution. Yet, as these projects move forward, critics raise familiar alarms. Chemical waste, water contamination, and the long-term health risks of refining remain real dangers. Texans, proud of their land and protective of their communities, face a difficult question. Can the state embrace this role as a rare earth leader without sacrificing the very environment and heritage that define it? The story of Texas captures the heart of this new American gold rush, as not only about digging for wealth, but also about shaping the values that will guide the nation's future. Will progress and preservation find balance, or will history repeat its harsh lessons once again? While new mines and projects dominate the headlines, the deeper truth is that this modern gold rush is not just about digging, it's about strategy. Rare earths are more than minerals. They are leverage in a global power struggle. China has understood this for decades, investing heavily not only in mining but in refining, research, and manufacturing. Today, they don't just control the raw materials, they control the entire chain, from ore to finished product. That means even if America digs up its own rare earths, it could still remain dependent unless it builds the infrastructure to process and use them domestically. This is where national security enters the picture. Military experts warn that America's fighter jets, missile systems, and communication technologies are all tied to materials sourced from overseas. In a time of rising geopolitical tension, that dependence looks more like a weakness than a convenience. Imagine if supply lines were cut, factories could stall, weapons could be delayed, and the entire defense sector could find itself vulnerable. That fear has sparked action in Washington, where lawmakers are pushing billions of dollars into rare earth development, subsidies, and partnerships with private companies. But here's the irony. Even as America scrambles to catch up, the race is no longer just between nations, it's between industries. Tech giants, automakers, defense contractors, and green energy startups are all competing for the same limited supply. Each sector argues its needs are the most urgent, whether it's to power the next iPhone, build cleaner cars, or secure the skies. This tug-of-war is creating fierce rivalries, not just across borders, but within America itself. At the same time, global markets are watching. Prices for rare earths swing wildly with every new discovery, trade, dispute, or government policy. For investors, it's a high-stakes gamble. Fortunes can be made or lost overnight. For the average American, though, the consequences may be far more personal. Every smartphone, every electric car, every wind turbine is connected to this struggle. The choices made in these deserts will ripple into daily life in ways most people never see. The modern rush, then, is not only about rediscovering America's mineral wealth, it's about whether the nation can build the resilience and foresight needed to compete in a world where resources equal power. And in this race, falling behind is not just an economic risk, it could redefine America's place on the global stage. For all the talk of strategy, politics, and economics, the rare earth rush is also a deeply human story. Out in the desert towns, you can feel the anticipation, the tension, and the uncertainty. In some places, unemployment has lingered for years, and the promise of mining feels like a lifeline. Families see the chance for steady paychecks. Schools imagine new funding, and local businesses hope for more customers. The dream of prosperity, the same dream that fueled the gold rushes of the past, is alive again. But with opportunity comes risk. Older residents remember previous booms when companies arrived with fanfare, only to close up shop years later, leaving behind polluted soil and empty buildings. Some fear that this rush will end the same way, another cycle of broken promises. Ranchers worry about their water supplies drying up. Parents wonder about the health effects of chemical waste. And tribal leaders fight to protect sacred sites that mining companies see as nothing more than acreage on a map. Conversations in diners and town halls reveal the heart of the debate. One neighbor says mining is the future, a patriotic duty that will secure America's independence. Another insists it's a reckless gamble, a short-term win that will cost the next generation dearly. These personal stakes far from the boardrooms of investors or the halls of Congress show how much is truly riding on this new American gold rush. And then there's the allure of fortune. Just like in the 1800s, people from across the country are being drawn to the desert, hoping to stake a claim, land a job, or invest in a project that could make them rich. The human drive to chase opportunity, to find wealth in places others overlook, is as strong today as it was when wagons rolled westward. The difference is that now, the gold is invisible to the naked eye, buried in rocks, hidden in chemistry, and locked in global trade networks. This mix of hope, fear, and ambition creates an atmosphere that feels both familiar and new. It's the old frontier spirit meeting modern technology, the clash of personal dreams with global stakes. And as history has shown, whenever those forces collide, the outcome is never simple. It's written in struggle, sacrifice, and the unpredictable turns of fortune. As the desert becomes the stage for this high-stakes drama, one question lingers. Can America truly balance ambition with responsibility? The push for rare earth mining has ignited a conversation far bigger than minerals. It's about what kind of nation America wants to be in the 21st century. Will it charge ahead, extracting as much as possible to secure dominance? Or will it tread carefully, weighing environmental costs and cultural preservation against economic gains? In Washington, the urgency is clear. Lawmakers frame rare earths as a matter of national survival. Subsidies and tax breaks flow to companies willing to take the plunge, and speeches warn of the dangers of dependence on China. Industry leaders speak of innovation, of refining technologies that will make mining cleaner and safer, promising that the mistakes of the past will not be repeated. Optimism fills the air, but so does doubt. After all, similar promises were made during earlier booms, and many communities are still living with the scars. Meanwhile, global eyes are fixed on the American desert. Europe, Japan, and other allies themselves wary of reliance on China. Watch closely to see if the U.S. can become a reliable supplier. At the same time, China is not standing still. With decades of experience and infrastructure, they continue to expand their grip on the industry, investing abroad and tightening their hold on refining and manufacturing. In many ways, the new American gold rush is not just about catching up. It's about racing against a competitor who has already built an empire. For the miners, engineers, and families on the ground, these global battles feel distant, even abstract. Their concerns are immediate, steady paychecks, clean water, safe neighborhoods. Yet their daily struggles are tied to decisions made in boardrooms and government offices thousands of miles away. It's best this strange duality that makes the story so compelling. Ordinary lives shaped by the invisible pull of rare earths. Minerals most people will never see but depend on every single day. The desert, once seen as empty and barren, has become a crossroads of destiny. It holds within its sands and rocks the power to transform economies, shape geopolitics, and define America's future. But whether this story ends in triumph or regret is a question no one can yet answer. And that uncertainty is what keeps the world watching closely, nervously, expectantly. Every rush in history has had its turning point in the moment when dreams either solidify into lasting prosperity or collapse into broken hopes. For the new American gold rush, that moment is approaching fast. Billions of dollars are already at play, and the choices being made in the desert will echo for decades. If the U.S. succeeds, it could reshape global trade, secure its technological future, and offer a modern version of the American dream. If it fails, the consequences could be devastating: wasted investments, damaged environments, and an even deeper dependence on foreign powers. The truth is, no one can predict which way the story will turn. Success depends on more than just minerals in the ground. It hinges on science, politics, global markets, and the will of communities to adapt. Can new technologies make mining cleaner? Can government policies outlast election cycles and provide consistent support? Can companies resist the temptation of short-term profits in favor of long-term resilience? These are the questions hanging in the air, just as they once did in the gold fields of California more than a century ago. And perhaps the most intriguing question of all, what if this rush is not about one resource, but about redefining how America approaches its future? Rare earths may be the spark, but the deeper fire is about innovation, independence, and survival in a rapidly changing world. The desert has always tested those who ventured into it, challenging their endurance, their vision, and their resolve. This time is no different. As Americans watch this story unfold, they are not just spectators. Every electric car purchased, every smartphone upgrade, every push for renewable energy is tied to these minerals. The outcome of this rush will ripple through homes, schools, and businesses across the nation. It's a reminder that the invisible elements beneath the desert sands are shaping visible changes in daily life. The question that remains then is not whether America can find the minerals, it's whether America can find the wisdom to use them well. Because in the end, the new gold rush is not just about what lies buried underground, it's about the values that rise above it. As the sun sets over the vast deserts of the American West, the land glows in shades of red and gold. Hiding beneath its silence, the minerals that could shape the world's future. The scene feels almost timeless, echoing the dreams of prospectors who once searched for fortune here more than a century ago. Yet today, the stakes are higher, the challenge is greater, and the consequences far more profound. This is not a story of gold pans and dusty trails. It is a story of global power, national security, and the choices that will define a generation. The new American gold rush is more than just a scramble for resources. It is a test of balance between independence and responsibility, ambition and caution, progress and preservation. History teaches us that rushes often leave scars on landscapes, on communities, on entire nations. But they can also ignite innovation, courage, and opportunity. The outcome depends not on what lies underground, but on the decisions made above it. For some, this rush represents hope, a chance to revive forgotten towns, create new industries, and restore America's self-reliance. For others, it stirs fear of repeating the same mistakes that left toxic legacies and abandoned communities. Both views are true, both are real, and both will shape how this story unfolds. That tension is what makes this moment so powerful. In the end, perhaps the greatest treasure of this rush is not the rare earths themselves, but the question it forces us to ask: what kind of future do we want to build? The answer will not be written in or samples or investment reports. It will be written in the values we choose to uphold, the risks we are willing to take, and the sacrifices we are prepared to make. As the desert night falls, the new gold rush continues. Machines dig, investors speculate, communities debate, and the world waits. Somewhere in that quiet, the next chapter of America's story is being written, one that will decide whether this rush leads to a brighter future, or becomes another cautionary tale in the endless pursuit of wealth beneath the sands.